All right, here we are live with some of my favorite people, and we may have one other joining us in a minute. The idea with this is that we would have a conversation. One of the things that we value highly is that we would engage the conversations. Why the table is such a big deal. And right now, while we can't actually get to the table, although I think all of us are sitting at a table, um, we can have a conversation. And one of the heartbeats for me was through all this is just to talk with a few people who, in the midst of all of this, are really grappling with big decisions. And this particular conversation will be around those who own businesses or are starting business. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. Like I said, we may have one jump on in a moment. He's running a little bit behind because he runs his own business. So I'm going to have these guys introduce themselves. Two of my favorite people, honestly. One I've known forever. One I'm getting to know much more, and I'm super thankful for both of them in just amazing ways. So let's start with you, David. Just kind of tell us who you are, what you're doing, what the business is, and then we'll go to Kristen.
Okay. Hey, I'm David Emerson, and I own a flooring and tile showroom, warehouse, and do installation and sales, and that's Masters Flooring in Keller, Texas.
Yeah. And what's interesting about you, Dave, is that that is what you're doing now. But you also did just get a new job. Your background isn't just this. Your background is actually crisis. Your background is Red Cross, going into the toughest situations, circumstances. So you got almost a unique perspective on this, even in managing business, which you've also done a lot of. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And then Kristen, tell us a little bit about where you're at, what you're doing.
Yeah, my name is Kristen McCurdy. I own Kristen McCurdy Studios, and we do interiors, events, and florals, designing, planning, really anything you need that involves those three areas.
Yeah.
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas.
In Fort Worth, come on. The city. We love the Fort. And Dave and Stacia live in Fort Worth. In fact, just north of kind of where we do church. So just amazing people. So kind of just give us an idea right now of we're now in a state of Texas where we're opening up a little bit more. Things are beginning to progress forward, different stages, and I know other different stages than maybe other places. Give us a bit about where you're at. And then even in that, give us a little bit of idea of kind of when all this hit, when all this started to go down. Because I know for Dave, you had to start shutting your doors. You had employees to pay. Kristen, you had gigs and events, weddings that were starting to get canceled or postponed. And it came fast, and it was a lot to deal with and navigate. So give me a little bit about where you're at right now, but really even more so, man, how did all this feel when it all hit, and what were the things that were starting to go through your mind and heart?
Go ahead, Kristen. Oh, okay. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I was actually in Denver on vacation, and we went to Denver because when all this happened, I was in Denver on vacation, and we went to Denver because I had a wedding to do at the end of vacation, and I thought that was going to be the start of my spring crazy season, and didn't realize the last wedding I do for 6 months or whatever. So a little interesting. I still remember waking up that morning, and I had a bride call me who was supposed to be getting married the next weekend, a rather large wedding at the Bass Hall. And anyways, she was like, "Hey, I think we're going to postpone the wedding." And even when you're on vacation and you don't really, I don't know about you, I don't really follow the news when I'm on vacation. And I knew there was stuff going on in New York, but I honestly, it took me by surprise, and I had to act like I knew what she was talking about. And I was just like, yeah, okay, well, whatever we have to do. If they're not open, obviously we can't have a wedding. So I remember getting off the phone with her and then having to hop online and actually read about what was happening, because I didn't have a clue. But yeah, I'm just not a panic person. So I kind of just went into, okay, well, what are we going to do mode? And, which is interesting because my I would say majority of my business, 50% of it's coordinating weddings. And so I'm supposed to be that person who, is peaceful, calm, running the show. You don't know that there's chaos happening kind of deal. And so I kind of felt like I had to jump into that for myself.
Wow.
Yeah, just kind of, let's not freak out. Let's just manage the situation and just kind of take it one day at a time. But yeah, that first 2 weeks, I think I rescheduled nine weddings and rescheduled to a degree of we pushed them late summer and fall. And then as you learn more, you're like, oh, is that enough time? Are those going to happen?
Right.
Yeah, I would say though, definitely my faith and trust in God. I honestly don't know how people do it without it, because I think that's the only reason I wasn't, well, and John's job, we knew that wasn't going away because he works for a bank. And so just knowing that while mine might be a little slower for a minute, I don't know how this looks like. I never, and I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I never, but it was, yes, I had to look at all scenarios, but I honestly was never panicked or worried. And I'm still not. I think part of that is 8 years ago, someone told me people are always going to get married and people are always going to die. And I know that sounds morbid, but people are always going to need flowers. They're always going to need someone to organize something for them. And so I've just kind of held on to that during this time. But now, fast forward, I feel like it's crazy busy again, a little chaotic, but it's in the other sense of now we're able to have weddings and we're rescheduling. And I actually have one end of June, which I didn't think I was going to have. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And I want to get to some of the lessons you learned in managing all that and navigating all that in just a moment. But David, kind of tell us what kind of the experience for you, and you can start with the moment it happened or where you're at now. But I know for you were, and we had so many conversations through that time, and I was so blown away by, and Kristen would be the same. I was so blown away by the calm. And I know sometimes that just means that you're good at masking it, but truly it seemed like there was just this, and maybe it's your background and what you've had to walk through and deal with particular scenarios, but it just seemed like there was a calm and a peace. And I think you've learned some valuable lessons over the years. But yeah, what was it like for you? What was that moment? What were those moments? Because I know it was kind of like every day was a new kind of challenge, a new question, a new problem. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, initially there was definitely a little bit of panic. It might not have shown when I talked to you, but I don't know if Jesse will be able to join or not, but my overhead structure is different than Kristen's and Jesse's.
Right.
And so, so initially my thought was, wow, this could go really bad and I could be shut down and basically bankrupt the business, right? And so personally, it doesn't mean I'm bankrupt, but it means the business is bankrupt and I have people who are unemployed, right? And so those were my initial concerns, right? I don't want the business to go bankrupt and go upside down, and it would hurt me as well. But one of the reasons I have a business is because I view it as stewardship, right? I view it as an opportunity to give people jobs and to pay them well and to feed families and so on and so forth. So counting myself, I have 5 full-time employees, and then we employ through subcontractors our contract with them, about another 40 people that are kind of on our payroll, if you will. So the impact could be big, right? And so that was really my initial concern, was just hey, wow, this is going to hurt a lot of people. How do I soften the blow for everybody best we can? And so I have a general manager, met with her the next day. We had some initial conversations. And so we decided to go ahead and close our storefront and only do by appointment only. We're considered an essential business, so we were able to stay open. But we had to go in and make some hard decisions because of the overhead. And so we laid off one of our employees, and he wanted to go back out of state where his family was during the pandemic. And so we laid him off, and then we kept the other employees, and they all took a 25% pay cut just because we didn't know what was coming. Yeah. And, every day, as you said, we had to plan differently. And, I reached out through C3 to some other business owners in the church that are in the construction industry, and did some work with them that we hadn't been doing in the past to just try to create sales and create opportunities and provide for everyone. And then we applied for the loan and got the PPP loan, and that allowed me to put all of my employees back on full salary and to also give them their back pay back. And so the amount that they had taken their cut, we were able to restore that to them and make them whole. And so as Kristen said, the first 2 weeks were just really weird. And even though we were open and essential, it was really slow, right? Just enough basically to pay the bills. And but then, you know, I don't know if people got comfortable, or I know from talking to a lot of my vendors, we were like the only ones selling. So I don't know if all my competitors just went home or what they did. But our business actually, you know, went back to a similar pattern to what it had been, and so it's actually hasn't been great, but it's hasn't been bad since that time period. And so we're just kind of monitoring it since then. We call the person that had taken unemployment. We called them back, and they chose not to come back. So now we're in the process of hiring another employee to get back to where we were, fully staffed. So, but when you know. Initially, a lot of panic, right? I mean, just that first day, just a lot of panic, and then you process it and get through it and start making a plan. And you know, some of that's experience, some of that's just, you know, my faith in God, and then some of it's just what, as some of you know, what we went through last year. I'd already come into grips with the fact that this company isn't me, and it can go under, right? And while I don't want it to, and I want to provide for people, God had already shown me that it'd be okay, right? So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I remember talking to you about provision and things that were being provided. I remember, Kristen, you telling the same thing about weddings that like weren't in, but then they were, and then someone stepping up and some people scheduling more, and like, you know, all these kind of moments where, but you're right. I remember early on in this whole thing, and just there was a lot of panic and fear for me, and not just for me, but for the people that I'm responsible towards and their own spiritual health, not necessarily for all their physical needs, although that's obviously concern of ours and something we've done to help with. But it's a wild thing, the way it happened. And I think the thing early on, at least, was the day to day. It was almost as though for me, I had to settle in, and I almost don't want to ever leave this, right? A settle into the day to day of being with the Lord, walking in step with him, making decisions that today are as best I can make. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to go, but right now, this is the best I know how to do. Is that what other kind of lessons, and maybe you want to echo that sentiment, but what other kind of lessons do you feel like you've learned in this kind of process of like being responsible for, you know, I know weddings, like I do weddings, I get super nervous because it's such a big day for somebody, you know, and like you said, Dave, I love your heart, you know, towards your employees. And like, what are some of the other things that you would have learned in this process as a business owner, and that are now going to end up paying dividends for you and the people you employ in the future? Kristen, let's start with you. What are some of the things that you're kind of going, oh, I never saw it that way, I never perceived it that way, but I'm going to lean into that?
Well, I don't know if this is answering your question exactly, but for me, weddings were not going to happen. And so, but the one thing, I do floral design as well. And like I said, it's probably about 50-50 of what I get hired for. But people wanted flowers. And so I actually sold a lot of things out of my yard. I don't have a lot of flowers in my yard. I have like a rose bush, some irises, some greenery. Like I sold a lot of stuff out of my yard because when I did start to panic a little bit because none of my wholesaler closed like 2 weeks ago. And so I was the crazy person in line at Trader Joe's at 9 a.m. stealing all the flowers. That was me. Because I was shocked. I just started getting orders for flowers and people just messaging me on Instagram and texting me and saying, hey, can you do flowers and drop them off at my neighbor's house? Can you do flowers and deliver them here? And I don't think I ever saw my business being a floral delivery service, even though, well, I never imagined that florals would be most of my business. I always thought it was like an afterthought, like a side thing. I enjoy doing them and they bring me great joy. And so I feel like though during this time, it's just been a shift that has become majority of my business through this time. And so just really reevaluating that. And I launched an online flower shop.
Right.
where you can order flowers online, and launched it Mother's Day weekend, and that was insane. We did 85 bouquets that weekend. I had a few helpers come in, but going back to how David was talking about his employees, I think for me, the reason it was a little easier to stay sane was I was very thankful that I didn't have any employees to worry about. It's just me, and I hire freelancers to come in and assist me on each project. But again, I'm not their main job, and
Right.
I think it would have looked very different had I had employees that I knew I was responsible for, and I would want to take care of and had to take care of.
Yeah.
But for me, I just, all that to say, once I took care of all the rescheduling, I just, through this time, just really embraced the different direction, having those mornings and being able just to sit and, read and have a quiet time. Enjoy time with my family on the weekends, because I had a wedding scheduled every weekend sometimes too. So I can't really think of any lessons learned, which is, I know that's what you kind of asked, but.
Well, I mean, I would in some ways disagree. The lesson that you have learned is, one, your ability but the innovation, the fact that in this moment you were given, like if you had every wedding that you had scheduled and they happened, the chance of you launching an online floral shop,
wouldn't have happened.
zero, right?
Right.
And so in some ways it's this idea, one, that your capacity is big, two, that you will have employees. I just think that's a no-brainer. Someday that's going to be a thing. And but I think a lot of people have learned in this that there are things that maybe they didn't give enough credence to, or things that would have never been done because they didn't have enough time. That now you've created in a span of 6 to 8 weeks, you've created a secondary income that will stay with you through the rest of this.
Absolutely.
So you know what I mean? And that's a beautiful thing. You hate that it comes at the expense of so many other things, but at the same time, it's the innovation in difficulty, and so I think that's a beautiful way to answer the question, is to say, I never really thought that was going to be much, but well, it is, and then, like, how cool is that? Like, what a great thing. How about you, Dave? Because you did have to innovate. You did have to call people that you hadn't been calling, and you had to work some relationships. You had to go appointment only. So yeah, what are some of the things that you've grown in, even as a business leader, having already done a lot of crisis type scenarios and situations in your past, like this one? Because we've talked about this, like you said, with your experience from last year and the things that you've learned about your business and what you hold in your hand, and whether it's yours or it's not or whatever. So what are the things either that were confirmed or renewed or were brand new for you?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely some things that were reaffirmed or confirmed, right, that I had always wanted to make sure were part of the business. And it's that taking care of the employees, right? And so, I feel it's a value, right, that I need to do as a believer. That's the easiest way for me to show them God's love, right, is to give them a job and pay them well and treat them well, right, and to empower them to do their jobs. And so they saw that, right? They know my heart, all of them don't believe the same way I do, right? They saw my heart, and they saw that played out during this time. Even though they took a pay cut, they saw me be able to come back in and give them their money back, and then actually gave them a bonus about a couple of weeks ago because of the incredible work they've been doing. And so we've just been blessed to do that. But it reaffirmed taking care of your people, right? And and from selfishly from a business standpoint, it creates loyalty, right, with my employees. And so there's a business reason for doing it, but it's my heart that wants to do it. So it's really reaffirmed that. But it also opened up avenues, as you said, that we always had in the back of our plan, right? It's in my business plans. It's part of the strategy to grow into some of those other sectors. But because we were so busy doing what we were, and because of the structure we have and what we went through last year, we were limited in time and interest to go do those things. So reaching out to general contractors and trying to grow that segment of business, where whether it be me becoming a supplier for them, because I can generally buy cheaper than they can because of the volume we do, or me providing labor for them if they need, so that at least it's keeping my subs employed. On those jobs, I don't make any money on it because I'm helping, we're all helping each other out, but it does have cash flow through the business, and it does keep people working. And so it opened up those opportunities, and we continued to, we plan to open another location. We've continued to look at doing that during the crisis and continued to plan and just try to keep moving forward. And it really strengthened our relationships with a lot of our vendors as well. And that's always been a value I always wanted to have as well. So I always wanted to do 80% of my business with about 20% of my vendors, right? And really have strong partnerships and have we have over 6,000 products, right? And so I have a ton of products that I can offer people. So no matter what they want, I can get it, right, for the most part. But I wanted to always have that loyalty and that partnership, right? I value that in everything we do. So it created some more loyalty on that side as well. Personally, I would say it really, just like you and Kristen, it really was a chance for me it forced me to slow down, right? I mean, or it forced me to refocus. I don't know that I slowed down because I was already officing from home most of the time. I mean, I'm active in my business, but I don't go in every day. I don't sell. I have a general manager, right? And so I backfill for them as they need it for the most part. But it had me refocused to where, I was much better at having a devoted quiet time in the morning. And, I started getting up earlier. The first 2 weeks were a nightmare, right? Because it was just because I texted you, at midnight and 1 a.m, right? And so, we're all just on information overload. But after that, we all just kind of stepped back and went, okay, we've got to do this different. I think. And for me, we just did it differently. I mean, I started getting up at 6 a.m, which is good now that I have a job again. But even now, I'm still able to maintain that discipline of having that time every morning and being in the Word and spending time in prayer before I start every day. Whereas before, I did it maybe every day. I'm an honest guy, maybe every day, but it was as it came, right? Or I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do it, and then life happens and I don't. So that's been a really good takeaway for me personally.
That's awesome. I think that's, I think it's 1 Peter 1 talks about this idea of your faith will be proven more valuable than gold in trial. And I think for so many of us, I think what we're being pushed up against is that faith defining trial, where maybe for some of us, and now I know, David, this is not anything new to you over the last year, but but what actually probably helped was that you had walked through what you walked through last year. And when you came into this, there was a different perspective on what this meant and what you held in your hands. And I think for me, I heard this economist say something that I've now been applying to almost everything, spiritually, church, business, whatever, family, is that the economy is going to grow more resilient, less efficient. And you can throw a bunch of different words into that. But to me, there's this idea that I'm going to be a stronger business. I may not, to me, it's almost like it may get there in 3 days, not 1 day. But it's going to get there with a better chain. It's going to better infrastructure, all the kind of stuff. What would you guys say has grown more resilient for you guys? And then we'll pray and shut down. And I'll give you guys an opportunity to finish out whatever you want to say, give some final thoughts. But is there anything that's just grown, and I'll let whoever wants to talk, anything that's just grown more resilient in this time that you're going, man, I have a different strength, capacity, faith, perspective. What's the thing for you guys that has grown more resilient as business owners, that you look ahead and you go, okay, I'm going to be better, not just because life's getting back to normal, but I'm going to do better because I'm a different person, different business owner than I was when this all started?
Why don't you take the lead on that, David?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, again, personally, it has been on the faith side, right? I mean, it's just been a refocusing of my faith, my walk, right, to where I'm, trying to do everything as I should, right? Not just running off in my own strength. I was telling someone that I work with in my job the other day that, you know, we have a head and we have a heart that God gave us, right? And I tend to lean more on my head when it comes to business. I lean more on my heart when it comes to serving people and taking care of my family. But when it comes to my business, I tend to go with my own strength a lot faster than I should. And so it's really, it's made me more resilient in that regard. I hope my prayers, I continue in that. And I think the business is more resilient. I think, the employees that I have, there is more loyalty there. They know that we're going to take care of them, and good or bad, right? And I'm loyal to them as well, right? Because they made sacrifices as well. And I think it shifted the model a little bit. I mean, because again, I'm not in the store every day, and I have a general manager, but everyone knew how to access me, right? And so if there was something they wanted to, to work around, they would come to me before they went to the general manager. And I would usually push them back to her. But at this process, because I wasn't going in at all anymore. And so it really shifted the model to where they really rely on her now. So I think it really made the business more resilient in that regard as well, from a leadership and a team. I mean, the people that are in there, they're a tight team right now. So that's been really good.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Kristen?
I would agree with the first part, what David said as well. Just my faith has definitely been strengthened, and that just comes from having those quiet times every day. In the past, they happen probably a few times a week where they're actually in depth, and the other time it's like, yeah, thank you God for this, and this is awesome. Or it's like crisis mode in the morning. You're like, please, let's go well. And you have these conversations throughout the day, but like actually having time every day to really sit there and not have to rush off to something. And having that happen for how long we've been in this, 8 weeks, something like that. Definitely helps create the habit. So personally, spiritually, that I think is definitely going to carry into these next seasons for sure. Also, just launching that, and all I did was the online flower shop. I still had work to do, but I basically got it to where it needed to be for Mother's Day weekend, and just seeing how it operated and worked, and that people received it well and they used it, was very encouraging, just to put other things online. And I don't know, I've also been able to really kind of focus in and have more vision and dream again during this period, because I feel like my spring season and my fall season, it's like summer's where I take a break, because please just, word to the brides, don't get married in summer. It's horrible. We live in Texas. Do not get married in summer. I don't care if your venue's inside. Don't do it. It's awful. We're all hot and it's not fun. But
all the event venue owners right now are watching who are mad at you.
Summer, I feel like has kind of been my downtime. Like July, I don't typically have a ton of weddings, and it's like I have this 1 month out of and then like there's January, so it's like I have these 2 months out of the year that I've allowed myself to regroup, think, plan, whatever. But I just had a lot of time to dream again and really reevaluate. Like, I've had this business for 4 years now. Where do I want to go? What do I want to do with this? And I do want a partner in it. So that's another thing too. But I actually want to do some merch online now that I know that this flower thing works. And I'm definitely not hesitant to take chances, because taking a chance during a time where everyone's on pause and seeing it work, like that's been really encouraging.
Oh, that's really good. It's exciting to hear that. And I know that's not everybody's story. I know that there are people, especially in different parts of the country, who are just in a really tough spot. So, we hope that even in these stories that are hopeful, that there's hope that's found. And I think you're right. I think the faith thing is becoming the thing. I think people are realizing, even in crises. I remember a book I read at one point. It was called "Too Busy Not to Pray," and I think sometimes it's too good not to pray. It's too bad not to pray. You got to pray. It's got to be that thing. And it's amazing how those things, the pausing to pray, tend to also accompany seasons of dreams and new hope and new vision. And it's cool to hear kind of what what you're talking about, and the resilience and the innovation and the, even like you said, just getting something out there, just putting something out there, making the phone call, doing the stuff. And hopefully people are encouraged in this next season when it might get back to normal or whatever, but to continue to press into the next thing, the possible thing. There's my son, to check in. And hey, we're wrapping up. I'm coming to get you. But yeah, to really lean into some of that. So, I mean, any final thoughts before we close out? I want to pray over all the business owners, all the entrepreneurs, all the people who want to start a business. Look, I don't think challenge or difficulty is ever going to be void of business owners, or it's always going to be there. This one obviously was in a very different way. Any kind of last minute things you guys would want to encourage, or just to speak to anybody who's still in the thick of it, or is coming out the other side? Anything you guys would want to add?
I mean, I do want to just say, based on what we went through last year and then this pandemic hit, it's, as I said earlier, it's reinforced the fact that, okay, I'm not in control, right? And I could lose it all, and it's no fault of mine, right? So if other people are in that boat, it's not, their fault, right? We may have done some things that got us on a slippery slope, but it's not their fault. And I always have been of the mindset that, I can't take it with me, right? I've been blessed, and I've been blessed a lot, and it's not mine. I can't take it with me. So I've always had that mindset, and so I just view it as, it's an opportunity to bless other people. And that's, would be my encouragement to everybody else is, do the best you can, and, take care of your people, and, just try to, keep dreaming, as Kristen said, right? Keep trying. So,
yeah, let your dreams and efforts define you, not your failures. Those things are going to be there no matter what. And every success, failures on the journey. Kristen, do you have anything to add? And then I'm just going to pray over everybody.
Well, I guess one thing I have that I didn't add that I have learned is that just getting back to the basics is sometimes the best way to just begin to reevaluate, and seeing that, with weddings, it's always, what's your guest count? How many people are you going to have? And we tend to think also in America that bigger is better. And this has just caused us to refocus in our industry that sometimes those intimate moments are the best moments. And so it wouldn't be a session without me unless I cried. So, but it's been really beautiful to see that I've had many clients where we've had these small intimate weddings, just the ceremonies, and they're still having a big celebration, within 6 months or a year with family and friends. But what they thought was like the worst situation has become amazing and beautiful and special. And so anyways, I would just say, don't hesitate just to strip everything away.
That's good.
Yeah. Anyways, don't hesitate to strip everything away, and don't stop dreaming. And last, I had one more and I forgot what it was. Hold on. Don't hesitate to try new things, because there is no normal right now, and everything's changing. So while everything's changing, just try it. Like, just go for it. And if you fail, you fail, but it's no big deal.
I love that. What a great way to end. I told someone the other day, I said, I've told you guys this. It's like a 2-year-old with a mullet. When you're 2, it's allowed.
Yeah.
And right now you're in a season where you could try a mullet. You could give it a go. What's the thing that you've been thinking about for a long time that you just need to give it a go? And right now it would be perfectly and totally acceptable, and everyone's going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Go for it. So, hey, let me pray over you guys. Let me pray over all of our business owners, entrepreneurs, anybody who jumps on to watch this. Thank you for those of you guys who did jump on live. I know we got a like. I can see that here. But I really do. I love you guys. I'm thankful for you. And I know you represent well many who are owning businesses, running businesses in our church. Let me pray over you guys. But I thank you so much for these two. I thank you for the one that didn't get to make it on. Thankful for all of those that these two represent and the conversation we just had. I thank you that you are showing us new ways, new ideas, God, I pray that you would put a courage in the hearts of people who are watching and who are taking this on. I pray that there would be a courage, a faith for some who are just trying to get through. God, I pray you give them endurance. Pray you give them a vision. I pray that they don't stop dreaming. God, I pray when they put their head down at night that you are putting in their hearts a fresh breath of what you can do in their life. And God, I pray that you would continue to make us better and better stewards of what we've been given. And part of that means taking riskier steps because we trust that you're a big God. So I thank you for today. Thank you for what you're going to do in the lives of these and those who are watching. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for
right.
jumping on. And we'll see you real soon, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
All right, guys.
All right.
Talk
Love
to
you.
soon.
Bye.